Better late than never, better late than never, forever hard to measure. I might see my future fall away, but you control time, so my future do what you say. Right. Well, welcome everybody. Man, I don't know where you guys are. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you tuning in. I'm joined with a special guest, man. I got Coach Tre Thomas here for the Better Late Than Never podcast. Before we get rocking and rolling, Trey, how you doing, big dog?
I'm good, man. I'm great. Happy it's Friday, so I'm good.
Yes, thank God it's Friday, man. Shout outs to it, man. Um, well, just to kind of get us grounded, Trey, I know I was just telling you offline, I want this to be as informal as possible, man. The heart behind like me having these podcast episodes is really helping those of us that are in the workforce that kind of get stuck, that we dream dreams and kind of hit a wall, helping folks to navigate it, right? And essentially my heart's desire is it's never too late for us to be the best version of ourselves. Before we kind of get too deep in the trenches, man, Trey, me and you, we crossed paths back in the day. You was a ball player at Shenandoah University, man. I love tell folks a little bit about like your time playing ball as a former student athlete. What did that look like for you, man? Getting a chance to go to university and play ball.
Yeah, in high school, like I didn't really know much about the whole recruiting process, all that things. I was just having fun playing football, and Shenandoah came around, and I was excited to play in college. So went to school in August. It was a very super small school, so I wasn't really used to that, and that area was super small. So it was definitely an adjustment for me. But it taught me structure. You know what I mean? Like having a small classroom, you get that relationship with your teachers, things like that, and within those 4 years, it I grew to realize why I went to Shenandoah. Like it was a reason for that. But just playing football, like again at D3, right? So it's different. You're playing for free, like you're just playing for the love of the game. Um, but it was still a grind in ways. You still got to wake up at 6 a.m. to go work out. Still got to practice, things like that. But it definitely taught you structure, right? Football teach you the game. It's the game of life, right? It'll teach you life, no matter what level it is. So Shenandoah it definitely taught me how to grow from an 18-year-old all the way throughout life. It prepared me to go take the next step. And I'm always grateful to play D3. Like
Yeah.
a lot of people feel ashamed for it, but like, I mean, football's football at the end of the day. Like, it's a lot of people out here that want to be in your shoes, either D3, D2, D1. So at the end of the day, I'm always grateful for it.
It was good, family. God has called me to help people to align and maximize their calling with their purpose. And one of the ways that I do that is through writing. My first book is called Purpose Driven Work, which focuses on helping people to get unstuck in their dreams, callings, and their careers. My second book is Purpose Driven Coaching, which really focuses on helping educators, leaders, and workforce development professionals to use coaching to make an impact on individuals' lives. And then lastly, my most recent book is called On Purpose Leadership, which I wrote with my homeboy Vad Lee, which focuses on cultivating leadership for teams and organizations. You guys can purchase any one of my books on Amazon. Y'all be blessed out here, man. Absolutely, man. You know what's cool, man? It's like I'm a career coach now, and I'm a career changer, right? So back when you and I got a chance to cross paths, I was your strength and conditioning coach. And I think the cool thing was like I realized I remember my advisors back when I played football. They always had like this kind of sense of pride is the best word I can say when they got a chance to see guys that kind of like grow up to graduate, start families, have careers. And man, I really like now that like I'm 37 years old, that really is one of the best feelings. And so I think about you in that kind of light, man. It's so rewarding. I'm excited to talk a little bit more about like your career as a strength coach. But I will say this, I remember you in the weight room. You were one of those, I'll call you like one of the silent assassins, man, because you have like well people don't know it in D3 you guys it's like 120 you guys, it's a whole squadron of athletes. And I think how we broke down the weight room sessions, I think we might have had like two or three groups for football. And if I recall, you were always in like the early group, like the 6 a.m. like.
Yep.
And just prefacing this, you didn't have to do that, like that was your conscious decision of like, all right, I'm about to get it in. But I just want to call out the fact like you were somebody that was always like laser focused. locked in as a silent assassin, just putting in work, keeping their head down, man. So I just want to give you some kudos there, bro, because that's something I remember you as, if that makes sense.
No, definitely. I appreciate it. Yeah, I was super quiet. Yeah.
For sure, man. Well, look, I would love for you to tell us a little bit who is Tre Thomas. I know you talked a little bit about like your career or how you started playing ball. Where you from, kind of your background, and kind of how'd you get to where you are as a strength coach, as a young professional.
Yeah. So I'm originally from Yorktown, Virginia. So it's like if people don't know, it's like right in between Williamsburg and Newport News.
Yeah.
Right. So originally from there, went to York High School. After that, pretty much raised by my mom. My real dad lives in Jersey. I have a stepdad too, so I was raised by my stepdad and my mom in Virginia. Mom was in the military. Stepdad was in the military for a couple of years. My the other dad was in the military, so definitely a military family. So we moved around. I moved around once. My older sister, she moved around quite a bit with my mom.
Okay.
So we moved from Virginia to Virginia from Jersey when I was like 5.
Okay.
So I pretty much grew up in Jersey my whole life. I mean, Virginia my whole life. So after high school, went to Shenandoah. It was kind of crazy when I first went to Shenandoah. All right. So at first I want to be a physical therapist.
Okay. Okay.
And that's what I wanted to do. And then I realized my grades, I won't go get
You done had a PT Grace. Hey, look, I was right there with you. I'm right there with you. No judgment.
I wasn't like really familiar with the whole process. Like I didn't know anything about PT school until like my junior year. I was like, oh, I didn't know that was a thing. So I was like, all right, I don't have the grace for this. So let me think of something else. So I was like, well, let me try athletic training. Thought about doing that. So I went back to my high school, and I talked to the athletic trainer who was my athletic trainer when I was there. And she let me like intern and do things with her. And I was like, this is boring. Like we just sit around waiting for somebody to get hurt. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, this is not for me.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I'm not doing this. And then you actually played a big role into me becoming a strength coach. Not even gonna lie. So, um, like in high school, I hated lifting weights. Like, believe it or not, I did not lift weights. It came to where I kind of knew I was going to college to play football, and I was
Okay.
like, okay, I need to get in the weight room. But even like my freshman year, I did not like lifting weights.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So when you came in, just like how, you having getting a connection with everybody, and just how, you came in, commanded the room and just how you held yourself as a man and everything like that. Like we all admire that about you on the team. Like no one ever said any bad things about you. Like it was in the weight room, we all had fun.
Yeah.
So it was just like for me, it was like, all right, like I see my body changing. I'm getting way more explosive, you know what I mean? So I was like, maybe I want to be a strength conditioning coach or a personal trainer,
Yeah.
So I started thinking about doing that. So once I graduated, I became a personal trainer.
Okay.
Also got a job as a PT technician. One of my high school coach, he was working at the clinic too, and he hooked me up with a job there too. So I was like, cool. My mom gave me two choices. She was like, either you find a job or you go into the reserves,
Okay.
military, and
Shout out
then
to mom. Look, mom
yeah,
was getting them nudges, man. They like that fire under your belt.
yeah. So I was like, yeah, I'm not going to the military. So I'm gonna go find a job. So got that job, and then yeah, it wasn't for me. I was like, yeah, I can't do this. So I wanted to do personal training full time. And then I actually moved to Northern Virginia. I moved to Arlington, Virginia, and I worked at D1 Sports Training as an assistant strength coach.
Oh, okay. I didn't
Yep.
realize that.
Yep. So I was there for about 3 months, and then I got hired, and then I got promoted to the head strength coach.
Okay. Okay.
So then I was there, and my former boss, he left to go intern at South Carolina. So
Okay.
we kept in contact. He was like, "Hey, man, like this would be a great opportunity. Like you should come do it." And I was like, "Yeah, 100%." And just working at D1, I realized I didn't want to work with general population. Like that
Yeah,
wasn't for me either.
it's
So
different.
yeah, and something always told me like I want to get back in football, like college athletics. I just didn't know how to get back into it.
Yeah.
So when my former boss hit me up about that, I was like, yeah, I'm ready. Let's do it. And I applied. I interviewed on the phone with the associate director at USC, and he was like, "Hey, you got it." He was like, "Be down here on this day." So talked to my parents. We figured it out. Got an apartment down there, and I packed my car up, drove 6 hours, moved to.
Man. Oh, hey, it's you again. The one that is watching this content but ain't subscribed to the channel. Listen, I'm a YouTube embryo, but I have dreams of one day being a full-grown YouTube man. In order to get there, I need your help. Subscribe to the channel. I am trying to help people in their dreams, their callings, and careers, and to help scale that growth, all you got to do is help a brother by hitting that subscribe button. Bless your brother so I can bless others. It's that simple. Be blessed.
Yep.
And that's beautiful, man. What's cool, Trey, is we have a lot of similarities in terms of how we navigated our careers. Like you talked about in school, like I thought I was gonna first I majored in business, but then I was like, nah, this ain't for me because I took economics and I bummed that joint twice. But then I was like, all right, I like things that are physical in nature, right? So I was like, let me try this physical therapy. Um, Grades was looking real crazy. So I was like, all right, I need to pivot. But fast forward, it was my strength coaches. They played the biggest role. Like I just looked up to those guys. And so I just had a convo with a few of them one day, and they chopped it up with me. It's like, first off, Q, you're not gonna get rich doing this. I'm gonna just keep it a buck with you. However, it's very rewarding as a career because they talked a little bit about the mentorship, uh, like over and over at the early stages of like figuring out what I wanted to do. Guys kept talking about like is they love the science part of it, like designing and figuring out how to like personalize programming. Then they love the relationship part of it, and so I was like, okay, that sounds interesting. But then fast forward, like when I graduated JMU, like I didn't know what to do. So I got into being a PT tech as well. I think you talked about like once you got into personal training and then there was a relationship that you stayed in touch with the gentleman from USC. I kind of did the same thing. I ended up going down to Mississippi State University for internship. And then I went back to the crib. And then fast forward, I ended up going to JMU as an Olympic sports coach. And then that's when I met you as a director of sports performance at Shenandoah. So it's a lot of similarities in our careers, man. Tell me, because one of my biggest sort of, I guess, mentors was Coach Healy, and he was at Bridgewater College, so Shenandoah's rival.
Yep.
But I remember him being a black man, and he pulled me aside. I was interning at the time. He was like, "Look, man, I know you're interning, I know you're young, and these guys that you're helping out in the weight room, they're the same ages of you, but you got to set yourself apart." And that's the first time I felt like, okay, if I'm going to commit to something, I actually have to like, challenge myself. I have to grow as a leader. And you kind of spoke to that. Tell me a little bit about like your journey, man, as a like we'll kind of maybe get to like the nerd stuff that we like to talk about as exercise prescription and training these guys and these great athletes. But for you, in terms of developing your skill, being a professional, what did that part of your career look like? What were some of the challenges? How did you navigate kind of what it means to be a professional strength coach?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Now that part, yeah, it gets a little crazy. So, like going in South Carolina, I worked primarily with football, honestly, on the whole time.
Okay.
So it was easy for me in that transition because I played football, right? So it was easy for me to have a relationship with the guys, stuff like 'cause I could relate. You know what I mean? Like when I was there, like Debo Samuel was there, Hayden Hurst, like big name guys were there.
Okay.
But all of us being, close to age and having a relationship, it wasn't bad. You know what I mean? So, and I remember one time, um, one of the guys, like he was having a hard time and he wasn't really listening to the coaches, but he would listen to me, right? And I really wasn't like always talking to him. Like he was a quiet kid, so I kind of knew like, all right, man, like some days you want to talk, some days you don't. So, I'm gonna let you talk when you want to talk, and I'm not gonna bother you, but we go get this
Right.
work in regardless.
For
Um,
sure.
and you know, the head strength coach came up to me. He was like, "Hey, have you seen like a difference in this kid?" And I was like, "Yeah, like he seemed like he just in a bad mood, don't want to be here." And he was like, "Well, have you talked to him?" And I was like, I'm an intern. Like, you want me to talk to him? And
Wow.
like, yeah, like, you got a good relationship with, talk to him. And I was like, all right. So that put me in a whole different perspective. Like, okay, maybe I can do this. You know what I mean? Like, maybe I could go up here and actually become a really good strength coach. And I kind of took that on everywhere I went. It's like, okay, like number one thing, like you got to build relationships.
Mm.
So from South Carolina, I moved to Mississippi. I got a GA at Alcorn State University, and
Okay. Okay.
my former boss at D1, he got the head job at Alcorn State, so he brought me with him.
Yep.
He's pretty much been my big mentor to this day. So I went to Alcorn State, and that right there was a change. Going living in Virginia, kind of like Yorktown isn't really like city like, but you got
Mhm.
big cities, well, not big cities, but you got
Newport News is
yeah,
close.
medium
You
sized
want to get to
city.
Virginia Beach. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, so you got pretty much grew up with that. You got Richmond right there, things like that. And then going to South Carolina, like, yeah, it's not a big city, but it's a SEC. At 23 years old, you're
Yeah.
pretty much back in school, pretty much. You know what I mean? So going to a state like Mississippi and seeing where Alcorn was, there's it ain't nothing around there, like nothing.
It's
So
football and Piggly Wiggly probably.
yeah, yeah. So a Piggly Wiggly was like 20, 30 minutes away. So
Oh, snap.
yeah,
Dang.
so like put it in perspective, like where Alcorn is, like the closest Walmart, movie theater, things like that was 45 minutes to an hour away.
Wow.
Closest McDonald's was 20 minutes away.
So was cats like the guys that went to university, is it kind of a university where like they're doing everything on campus, or is it a house party type of deal? Like what's the culture that type of university?
Yeah, so Alcorn State's HBCU, so they did a lot of things on campus, like parking lot pimping. That's what they called it, where they all go in the parking lot, hang out. They also had parties like out of campus, which it was in Port Gibson, which was like 15 minutes away.
Okay.
So that's where majority of the stuff was. Like Jackson, Mississippi was about an hour and 15 away.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't really much to do, but they made a great time out of it. I don't know how they did it, but they did. But going there and also like having to go with different demographics, you know what I mean? Like growing up in Yorktown, predominantly white, you know what I
Right.
mean? Going to Shenandoah, predominantly white.
Yep.
Um, and then USC, like the team, well, yeah, it was mostly black, but it was just still different, you know what I mean? And then going to HBCU where it's predominantly black and you're in the South, like to me, that was something different too, and I had to adapt to it. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
going there as a GA, not getting paid, like not a lot of
Mhm.
resources. I'm not gonna lie, like that really made me like grow up, and
Yeah.
I will always be grateful for that. Like when people ask me how I was, and I tell them, I said that taught me how to survive.
Hmm.
Straight up, taught
Hmm.
me how to survive.
You
I
got to be resourceful.
Yeah, so that helped me, and it was only two of us, and it was 16 teams. So it was kind of like in your situation, like you're responsible for all those teams. So I mean, I would wake up at 4:30, get to the weight room at 5 a.m., and I won't leave till about 7 or 8.
Yep.
So it was a grind, but that definitely taught me a lot. And just having working with different teams, with the men's team, the females team, it taught me how to coach everybody individually. Everybody comes from different backgrounds, right?
Hmm.
So and like for female sports, like people are kind of like, well, how do you train female sports different than men's sports? And I'm like, I don't.
Yeah.
It's like female sports, like females, some you have to coach different, but
Yeah.
same with men, like some you got to coach different,
Yeah.
So
Can
that's
I want to say this one thing as you say that, man. I think that's the one of the most things that I really, really appreciated and miss as a strength coach is like on paper or I guess on the outside in, like you would think that you would treat like a female athlete different or even like an Olympic based athlete different than, maybe a football. There are some subtle things that you want to do for your throwing sports, but the one thing I really appreciated and I liked was like, man, like I remember the female track team. I had more 300-pound squatters for that team than I did at JMU, like working with like softball players. Like softball girls, they some strong females. But I just put that in contrast. You will see some really great athletes, folks like yourselves, that are D2, D3 schools that you'll be surprised. So I want to call that out. It's like that's one of the beautiful things you'll see from an
Yeah.
athletic development and profile perspective for how you train folks. But anyways, keep going, man.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing I learned too. And just working with different sports. Like I went from football, working with women's basketball, men's basketball, baseball, softball, both tennis, golf, and you kind of just have to be creative and, you learn from, you got to learn the game too, to
Yeah.
know what demands they got to meet. You know what I mean? So it was definitely a learning experience. And then the other thing, like away from coaching was like, I was living in the dorms with the kids.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So
That.
yeah, it was crazy. Like I'm 25 years old, and again, Alcorn was just it was different. You know what I mean? Like 25 years old, I'm having a roommate that's
That's
like
wow. Oh
years old.
my gosh.
Yeah. So and how the rooms were set up, it was like you got two doors in there. Like you walk in, you got a living area, you got your little kitchen or whatever, and then you got two rooms. So you
Yeah.
have a roommate in your room, but then you have two other roommates, and y'all all sharing the bathroom.
Yeah.
So my first year, it was like that. And I'm just sitting there like, man, like, is this really for me? Um,
Yeah.
and crazy thing about it, my after my first year, I wasn't gonna come.
It was good, family. Better Late Than Never is more than just an album. It's a concept that it's never too late for us to change our mindsets and our lifestyles. This project was exclusively produced by my homeboy, Matlock, who has produced for some of the best artists in the world, including Lil Wayne. You guys can catch this project and stream it on all platforms, including Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube, you name it, it's there. As you guys tune in to Better Late Than Never, it's my prayer that this project helps you to live a purpose-driven life. Be blessed.
Back. I was gonna
Okay.
stop. Yeah, so I was over it.
What
And
made you come back?
so I went home and I spent the summer at home and I was like, I'm not doing nothing.
Mm.
I mean, I was like, I got if I go back, I got one more year.
Hmm.
If I stay here in Virginia, what am I doing?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I'm just holding myself back, So I was like, I'm gonna go back. Like
Yeah.
I already did 1 year. One more year can't be bad.
Yeah.
So and I actually went back and that time I got my own room and then I had one roommate. And me and my roommate, he was a little bit older. He
Hmm.
was close to more to my age, and we are friends to this day. So it actually it all worked out. But yeah, Alcorn, man, it taught me how to survive, which is crazy because after that, I had a hard time like with my master's. So going into Alcorn, I wanted to get my master's in Homeland Security.
Okay.
The
Okay.
reason for that was to have a backup plan, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I didn't want to coach. I have a backup plan. So I knew a bunch of people that lived in Northern Virginia that worked in the government, and they were
Yeah.
like, "Hey, you get your degree, I can get you a job." And I was
Yeah.
like, "Cool," So did that. I did it for a year, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm not doing this. It's not for me."
What made you
Like,
change your major?
it was like I was learning about computers and stuff. Like me thinking Homeland Security, I'm like, man, I'm about to learn some cool stuff, like FBI type stuff. Man, we talking about computers. Like, I'm like, nah, this
Same.
this ain't it. Yeah. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna change it. So I changed the athletic administration, and
Okay.
I was like, all right, hopefully I get it done in a year, right? So I tried to do it in a year, and I was missing like three or four credits.
Hmm.
So I was like, all right, well, maybe the AD will look out, somebody athletic department will look out and help me pay for these four credits since, I transferred I switched majors. That didn't work out. So I was like, all right, well, I'm leaving. Like my
Yeah.
two is up. I'm not paying to stay here to take these classes, right? I gotta move on. So I left. I didn't have a job lined up. So I moved back to Virginia for a little bit for the summer. And I was just applying everywhere,
Hmm.
because like my network, I didn't really know anybody in the field besides my mentor that was at Alcorn and
Hmm.
then some of the guys at South Carolina. But everybody else did not know. And that's another aspect I didn't know about. So I just thought about you had to be a good coach to get good jobs.
Yeah.
Um,
Networking.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I was at home for about a month, 2 months, maybe a month and a half.
Hmm.
And I remember sitting at the computer one day and I saw a GA at University of Hawaii. And I was
Wow.
like, I was like, Hawaii would be dope, but I know I'm not getting this. But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna apply for it anyway. I applied for it, sent in all my stuff. And it was crazy how it worked because I was also interviewing at Mississippi State for Olympic paid
Oh wow.
internship.
Okay.
And I made it to all the way to the final. And I didn't get the job. And I was down bad after that. Like it
Yeah.
took all my confidence. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah.
I remember that weekend I was going up to Jersey for my friend's engagement party, and
Mhm.
I was in a bad spot.
Yeah.
Drove up there, and it was going up there was good because being around my friends and stuff helped me out. And I remember coming back. I remember driving up there. Actually, I got a call from the head guy at Hawaii, and he offered me the job. So
Wow. Oh,
yeah, so
did you interview at that point? Like, was it a phone interview or?
no, so Hawaii, how it worked, it was like I had to send like 3 videos and a video of like just telling about myself and things like that. And then they kind of picked off that. And they did
Wow.
like your references and stuff like that. So yeah, so he called me on my way there and I got the job. So that weekend turned out great, right? Told my friends, we celebrated, everything like that. Came back home and then me and my mom, we had a real talk. She told me, she was like, is this what you want to do? I said, yeah. She was like, now look, like Hawaii different. Like you not moving up the street. Ain't like she was like, you ain't moving to Mississippi, South Carolina. She was like, you pretty much gonna live overseas. And like
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, whatever. Like, I got this. And my mom was like, she in the military, she went to Korea, Japan, she knows. So she like, you can't come home like you want to come home, like I'll just let you know. I was like, all right, like I get it. Like, but
She
this is
telling
why,
you.
yeah. So we made it work. And I got on that flight, went to Hawaii, and then it turned out to be a great experience. And I always correlated to Mississippi. Without me living in Mississippi, I wouldn't be able to live in Hawaii.
Hmm.
I mean, so like I said, Mississippi taught me how to survive. I feel like I could live anywhere. So
Yeah.
going to Hawaii, like, yeah, the first couple, like maybe like the first month was rough,
Hmm.
And I remember getting in the Uber from the airport, and the Uber driver, he told me, he said, well, he said, look, if you can last 2 months on the island, you'll be good. He was like, a
Yeah.
lot of people get island fever. And he was like, it's a lot of people say like they want to live in Hawaii. It's beautiful, yeah, but you don't really know how it is until you get there.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, man, whatever. So I remember going on my first hike and I went up there and I just looked and I was like, man, this is beautiful. But it also hit me like there ain't nothing around but water.
Yeah.
You don't see no land, you just see water. And I'm like, dang, like I understand, like you're isolated.
Hmm.
But like for me, like I'm not gonna lie, being in Mississippi, like it definitely helped me as a man because I went through a really dark time and it made me really sit with everything I need to work on as a man, right? So I had to isolate myself, and that's when I isolated myself in Mississippi. And it made me really vulnerable and made me sit with everything to become better and grow, right? So like for me, like growing up, I grew up a great life. I'm not gonna lie. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I ain't grow up in the trenches. I ain't
Right.
struggling, so but there's, everybody has their flaws and growing up in that aspect, it's hard to sit there and deal with your flaws when you always know you have a comfort zone, right?
Yeah.
That's my
Yeah.
thing. Um, so even in college, like, same thing, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? So going to Mississippi made me actually get out of my comfort zone and actually deal with my, red flags or whatever, demons, whatever you want to call it, vices, whatever. Um,
Yeah.
but moving to Hawaii, I was okay with it because I already isolated myself. So I was used to it. I was okay with being alone, right? It's all about what you make of it. But one thing about living in Hawaii, it changed my perspective on life in the sense of to always appreciate the little things.
Hmm.
Just how beautiful Hawaii is. There's not a lot out there. It's super expensive,
Hmm.
but waking up every day and seeing the sunshine and smell the ocean
Hmm.
and be able to go to the beach and like people dream about going to Hawaii. And I
Yeah.
was like, "Man, I'm living here."
That's crazy. That is
So
wild.
yeah, so for me, it just made me appreciate like life, like every little thing. But coaching wise, same thing. Like I got to work with beach volleyball, water polo, women's basketball, women's track and field, and football,
Hmm.
and a little bit of men's basketball too. So it was a crazy difference because I went from a men's sport to having a balance to really predominantly women
Yeah. Yeah.
sports. So it was just like like this is crazy, right? So
I'm
um
sure it teaches you so much, man. On average, it takes Americans 11 months to change careers. What we found at Lenore Coaching is it takes our clients about 6 months to change careers. Even more so, the first 60 days is where we've seen our clients land interviews and job offers. It's not because we have a magic wand, it's just because we have a comprehensive and concise career transition program. The three biggest reasons that we've seen folks struggle to change careers is because they don't actually know what they want, they don't know how to articulate their value to an organization, or they don't have an effective job search strategy. I suggest you try our 60-day career change course. I guarantee you that you will produce results in the job search process. Be blessed. And not to cut you off because I want to keep going. Like I want to make sure I synthesize some of the stuff because um what I really value is like you kind of went to from Alcorn and also Hawaii. You had a conscious decision to make. Like you could have easily go back to the crib where to the same point I come from a life of privilege as well. Two parents, my dad in the Navy, mom is a registered nurse. Like if I wanted to be a bum or if I wanted to like lean on them and got that privilege. But for you, you made a conscious decision like to lean into the uncomfortable, to embrace, trying your best to like learn life skills, also inside of your world of work to learn how to like work with a different population. And so I think that's something that's really valuable to bring out, man, because I think most of us will get like stuck in life. And being stuck is not a bad thing. I think it forces you to think, it forces you to like reassess and evaluate because the words that you use, man, was like, you talk about like you kind of use privilege, but also like self-awareness to wrestle with demons and like process like your areas of growth. I think we all have that. And I think being stuck allows us to like see it and not just go through autopilot and ignore that it's not there, bro. So I just want to call that out. But as you go, like you continue on, you're talking about at University of Hawaii. I would love to like frame up like context in terms of the actual types of teams that you train because when you think about being like this is unique to strength and conditioning where like most people will know the revenue generating sports, football, basketball, maybe baseball to a degree, like they see those predominant men's sports, but like to train a track and field athlete versus a golfing athlete versus a swimming and diving, like to me in my world of work, like those are the cool things because you're like, all right, I've never done this before. So tell me a little bit about like some of the sports that like you've obviously worked with football, but the ones that you probably have had to learn just how to coach them, what that learning curve looked like for you.
Yeah. So I remember for track, like I was sprinters, jumpers, and I would say my first year, like that was a huge adjustment because like sprinters, yeah, you kind of have an idea, right? But like jumpers, like high jump, I don't know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so for me to learn about that, like I went to a system strength coach who was also
Mhm.
my mentor, and we had to sit down and talk about it. He was a pole vaulter in high school,
Okay.
and he
Okay.
was like one state, all that stuff. So and he told me like this is how I would train them, and I would go to practice and see what they did, like the mechanics, stuff like that. I also talked to the coach, the head coach, and I asked her like, okay, what do you want from me? Like, what are some things you're looking for? Things like that. So it from that aspect, that's how I learned. And trial and error. Like program some things and it's not gonna work, right? But you gotta hold yourself accountable and be like, okay, what did I take from this, and how can I
Mhm.
do better? You know what I mean? So and to this day, it's the same thing. Same thing. Like I'm not gonna sit and say like everything I programmed was, the greatest thing on earth because it definitely wasn't.
I think that's the fun part, to be honest with you. It's like trial and error and looking back at your programs, like, what the heck? What was I thinking? I think that's the fun part because at the end of the day, some student athletes might be like, what was Coach Trey doing on this one? For the most part, though, like 95% of them, they just gonna do what you tell them to do. You know what I'm saying?
Yep, very true. So yeah, track was definitely interesting sport for me. Definitely with it being all women
Yeah.
because it's just so much that goes into it. They have a lot of battles they have to fight
Yep.
in that sport. And a lot that I didn't know about. So it was just dealing with that and learning from that and be like, okay, like how can I keep building connection with these kids, and then have them trust me and believe in what I'm doing and what I'm offering.
For
Um,
sure.
so and like water polo, man,
That's an interesting one.
yeah, like I remember my second year going like water polo. I'm like, I never trained water polo. I barely even heard of water polo.
I
But
might have watched two water polo games in my life, and it is pretty interesting
it
watching them.
is
But like, yeah, to your point, like it's unknown.
unknown. But definitely with them, like I kept it simple. Them girls got after it. Like they wanted to be trained like if I was training the guys team, they were down to do anything. They were just down to work. So it's also like, yeah, scientific and things, but also, what works best for the athlete, like mentally, like what makes them want to come in and be like, yeah, let's have fun today, let's go to work. And that's what I want the weight room to be. I don't want to be a place to where you come in, you're just like, oh, here we go again. I want to come in and be like, you look forward to it. You want
Yeah.
to be there. But yeah, water polo was super interesting. Again, just learning the game and mechanics of it and just, talking to the head coach and asking them like, what do you want from me?
Yeah.
Things like that. I think that's the biggest thing because Hawaii made me realize I have to have a connection with the coach as well, right? I just can't do whatever I want to do because
Yeah.
head coach might not have the same philosophy. You know what I
Gotta build
mean?
that trust. Yeah.
Yeah. So definitely water polo. Yeah, that head coach. He want nothing to play with. So
I feel you. Dude, it's funny you say that because I totally forgot about that part of the job where I remember being at Shenandoah. That was my first time really running the ship, right? Because before then I was at Mississippi State and JMU, and like you kind of you got to do what the head strength coach tells you. And I remember being at Shenandoah, like I wasn't lucky enough to like to go as far in my career as you have, but that's the first time I felt like, dog, I got like 21 bosses. Like I report to the AD, but low key, like the women's track team coach, she thinks she my boss. She thinks she
yep.
know I need to be doing the program. So that's a memory that's like, oh snap, I do remember that. And that's funny. I'll let you react to that. Like what is that dynamic like for you? Because you kind of talked about the importance of building trust and relationships. What is it like for you as a like putting the actual program aside, the student, your expertise aside, you kind of have to like build a rapport with the sport coach and your probably the athletic trainer or your AD at the same time. What is that like navigating for you as a professional?
Yeah. At first it was hard for me because I'm not a very talkative person. Like if I don't want to talk to you, I'm not gonna talk to you.
Yeah.
So like learning to do that, for me, it was like, okay, like, make sure you go in there, know what you're talking about, be confident, things like that. But Hawaii was a great start because everybody there was, really nice and really took you on as family and stuff like that. So it was a perfect start for me because it made it easier for me,
Mhm.
right? Like beach volleyball, I remember those coaches were so welcoming, and they understood everything I was saying. They were like, yeah, they gave me their ideas. And we were sharing ideas. I think the only hard time was when track and field. They had a new coach. I was new, and you could tell we didn't really see eye to eye to things. Um, but looking back on it, like my communication could have been better. You know,
Mhm.
um, I think I could have tried harder to, go to her office, talk about the program. Like, what do you want? And looking back, I didn't fully know what all they were doing for practice, right?
Mhm.
So they could have a hard practice. We come in the weight room and we might do trap bar deadlifts or whatever. And girls, like one girl might, hurt her back or something. And I'm sitting like, well, you only pull like 95 pounds. There's no
Yeah.
way you pulled your back. And they were like, well, we had a hard practice. I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh. So And I look back like that's on me. Like
Yeah.
I didn't have communication with the head coach. So it was just things like that to where, some coaches were very welcoming. I gravitated towards them more. And then some coaches was like, all right, like I'll keep my distance. But if you need
Yeah.
something, just hit me up. Whereas I sort of have more of a urgency to build that connection and relationship as well. I think that's the biggest thing I learned at Hawaii.
That's good. It's so cool that you just hearing you process because what I do a lot now, Trey, is I do like a career readiness programming for kids that's like in underserved communities that like between the ages of 16-24. And I tell them often like if you want to go to college, great, right? So my undergrad degree was kinesiology, but low key what I tell them is like I'm not doing anything related to kinesiology now, but what has happened like my work experience as a coach, as a sports performance coach, those have taught me so many more transferable skills, right? Because you're talking now about like, the building a relationship with a colleague. Like that's not something you can learn from a book, from going to class. You learn that because of like, yes, I'm the expert for this exercise program. However, they're going through class, study hall, they got a personal life with, boyfriend, girlfriend. They got to then compete. They got film study. The ebb and flow of their daily and weekly cycle is so dynamic that I'm just one slice of the puzzle. So if
Yep.
I don't do a good job of seeing the bigger picture and not only having a relationship with a student athlete, but also like having a relationship with the coach and seeing the big system, I'm gonna do myself a disservice. And I echo that. I just tell that story. Those skills are so much more transferable. And I say this like, I'm 37, so I think it's been 10 years since I've been a strength coach, but I see a lot of athletic coaches now. They're so what's the word? They have so many skills that they can go to any industry when they want to change. Like, I see a lot of my former coaches go into like financial services. I see some of them being like nonprofit directors. So I just give that as context of like you're showing how many skills you're developing. You kind of getting a master class of just how many transferable skills are going to be helpful for the here and now, but for your future. So hopefully that makes sense, man.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, that's the biggest thing. Just the one of the biggest thing I learned about in this profession, it's not about lifting weights and not about the sets and reps. It's about relationships and serving.
Mm,
And I didn't learn that at first in Hawaii. I always tell people like every chapter of my coaching, like career that I've been to, like every school I've been to, like I learned it's a lesson that I learned from it. Like Mississippi taught me how to survive, right?
yeah.
Hawaii taught me how to appreciate the little things and everything, right? So now when I go to Wyoming,
Yeah.
there's a whole nother demographic, you know what I mean? It was more of like I remember getting the job at Wyoming. That's my first full-time job actually.
Mm,
So I'm 28 at the time. And like for me, like being a strength coach and you getting your first full-time time at 28 is because you kind of took a while.
yeah.
So like most of my peers that I interned with at South Carolina, they already got full-time jobs, maybe on their second one. But I'm still working to get my first full-time. So I got to my fast forward. I got to my first full time job in Wyoming, and I remember I was so excited. And again, it went back to Mississippi, right? People think of Wyoming, they're like, "Oh, I would never move there," right? But for me, I'm like, okay, like yeah, it doesn't sound fun,
Good
but you,
time.
you never know.
Yep.
I try to give everywhere like a chance, right? Be open minded. So I get out there, man. I get out there. I have no jackets. It's
Oh my.
February. It's February. I have no jacket. I have two hoodies. I get out there and thankfully when I first get out there, I get off the plane, it's like 35 degrees and it's just windy, right? So I'm like, oh man. So I get in the Uber and we're just driving and it's just nothing but land.
Hmm.
Like,
Hmm.
oh man, here we go. So I get to the hotel, I had to like quarantine for like a week. So I
Okay.
get to the hotel and from that point on, it was a blizzard outside. So it's just that whole week it was degree weather. So I
That's
went
crazy.
from 80s and 90s every day to negative degree weather.
Hawaii to Wyoming, bro. That is wild. That is
Yeah.
crazy.
So yeah, that was a shock to me and I had to adapt to it. But you know, the thing that attracted me more to Wyoming was the people that were on the staff, right? I knew I was going to a place that was going to help me grow as a coach. And it did just that. Like I needed to be there. So being there and going to that demographic that's another thing I think it's an advantage of my journey, right? So I went from USC, which you have
Yep.
diverse. You go from HBCU, which is predominantly black. Then you go to Hawaii, right? And you got Samoans, Tongans, Hawaiians. Like you got white, black. It's very, very diverse, right? But you also learn about the Hawaiian culture. There's some different cultures, right? So it makes you appreciate a bunch of cultures, right? And then going to Wyoming, which is predominantly white, right? So it for me it was like, if I'm here with all these different demographics and cultures, I feel like I can relate to anybody.
Sure.
So that was also something too that I had to sit back and look at like, oh man, it's another day right here. Like this is gonna be easy. And the first day when I went to Wyoming, like my main focus. Hey, make connections, build relationships. Because at the end of the day, if the kids don't like you or the players don't like you or the staff don't like you, you're not going to be able to do a good job. Like, and I tell people like, if people don't trust you, how can you lead people?
Mm.
So that's the biggest thing. Like, if you're a leader, if someone don't trust you, you try to sit here and like, hey man, like this is what you should believe in, or this is how you should, live your life, or things like that. They go be like, oh man, this is BS. Get out of my face. So I always go back to how I look back to how I was as a player. And there's some things, coaches that I gravitated towards and like, and why did I gravitate towards those coaches? Is because they were always honest. They told me things I didn't want to hear. But when time came, they actually told me things I did want to hear. But majority of the times, they kept it real with me. And it was a lot of times where they told me things I didn't want to hear, but I needed to hear. So I think that's another thing I learned within this profession too. I think a lot of people forget about that aspect. You
Yeah.
but Wyoming, yeah, it grew.
That's wild. Your transition from Hawaii to Wyoming, that's kind of like that's a setup. So you was getting set up to really test your character. But
Yeah,
you
yeah,
made the call out too, man. Like I don't think a lot of us realize inside of athletics how like career pathways work. And I think, you made the example like some of your homeboys, they were on a second full-time job by the time you're 28. But the fact that like, but I've seen that for myself. Like when I was like my trajectory was similar with yours. I made a conscious decision to not do multiple GAs. Like I was like, man, because at the time I was married and like my first full-time job, um I got lucky. Like at JMU, Coach Werner was the head guy at the time. And just I went up there because to intern actually. So I was an unpaid intern, 21, 22 years old. I was married. So I was really like gambling, hoping to get my foot in the door. And I got lucky. Like two of the coaches left. Like they got other job opportunities. So literally me and the other intern, his name is Nick G. We both got full-time jobs and we was super excited. So the point I was making too is like I was on the same trajectory as you in terms of like time frame. And it just shows your character too. Like, you made a conscious decision to commit to the process and try your best to build relationships and learn the profession. So I want to give you that kudos. We're it's kind of two, maybe 3 points I want to get to, man. And we're almost at time. But one of the things that's different is like I'm 37. So like I'm not old, but I'm considered I guess I'm an OG, I'm an old head. And college sports is so much different than it was when I played. It was so much different back when I was coaching you. What for you, like what do you think those differences are? If you can kind of like summarize how you feel the current culture and climate is for athletics and what that looks like for you as a coach helping student athletes in this current climate?
Yeah. I would say the number one thing is NIL. Like that's the biggest thing. Like the players are getting paid. And it's kind of is different now because, you know, being at Arkansas is kind of the first time I really saw where the NIL came to play. And like you really don't realize like a lot of and this is where I realized people that don't work in athletics and directly work in college football, and when they think they know stuff, you have no idea. Like whatever you read and think you know, no, you only know a little piece of the puzzle, you know. And just NIL and just realizing how much money the players are actually getting is it's crazy.
Yeah.
So you got to deal with that. Like you got 18-year-old guys, players coming in, and you know they were getting paid in high school. Like you got players coming in making a lot of money, right? So just having to deal with that, and realizing like, all right, like these kids, they're
Out
caught.
of curiosity, not to cut you off, but I gotta ask this, like, because you've been a coach pre and post NIL. Like, have you seen a difference between how you coach and interact like with student athlete?
Yeah, definitely. I won't say it's much of a difference at all. But me, like the way I coach, like it's tough love. You
Yeah,
know, I always tell my players like, hey, like you might think I'm an a-hole or whatever, but it's because I care. You know what I mean? Like you, to them, it's feel like everything's going right, right? You're making a lot of money, you're playing football, like things are great, right? But I think where the game is going and culture wise, like we're forgetting that football doesn't last forever,
yeah,
right? So we're thinking about wins and losses.
mm,
When in reality, we should be getting the players ready for life,
yeah,
prepare for life, right? And you could balance it out, but we're starting to forget that the life part. So
yeah,
for me, it's like I'm gonna always stick with it because I've been in the shoes to where, I took everything for granted. And looking back is I'm like, I see why I went to Shenandoah. I see
yeah,
why I didn't go D1. You know what I mean? I was not ready for that, you know. So like for me, I tell the kids, I'm gonna always be honest with you. Either I'm gonna tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. And we had a Bible study at work other week, and it got brought up, and I was like, one of the things I struggle with from my transition from Arkansas to Virginia was coaching wise, I stopped giving compliments
mm,
because I felt like the players were getting so many compliments with everything they do, So it was like, okay, like I get the positivity, right? And a lot of people view the truth, like the hard truth, tough love, as negative.
yeah,
I'm just like, when did that become a thing?
yeah.
Oh, like I'm not sitting here telling you something like, oh yeah, you're a bad player, like this is bad. No, but if I'm sitting here giving you criticism or something to where you're not going to like, but it's the truth, I'm not going to apologize for that,
Yeah,
right? Because at some point you go sit back and think about it, be like, nah, he was right.
yeah,
I was the same way growing up. Like, oh, I don't want to hear that. But now thinking about it, I'm like, man, now I see where whoever told me that was coming from. Uh,
mm,
so I think that's one of the things. Like I just to myself, like be authentic,
mhm,
always tell the truth, and help these kids get ready for life, not just football. Because football don't last forever. Like even if you do go to the league and play for 10 years, right? 35, what you gonna do?
yeah. You
You
got so much more life to live after that.
you've been a football player your whole life, and I think that's the other thing where people are struggling within our profession. Like I don't view myself as a strength coach. I'm more than that. But a lot of people view themselves as a coach, a position coach, uh, uh, football player, whatever. And like again, at any time it could be stripped away from you. So
Wow.
when it's gone, what are you going to do?
Mm,
Like you also got to come home and be a dad, right? You got to be there for a son. Like you got to other things that you got to take care of. But if you just view yourself as one thing, the other things are going to sacrifice from it.
yeah.
So to me, that's a hard, like that's something over the years that I have seen a lot, and I'm just like, I can't do it. So like I create boundaries for myself when it comes to coaching and my job at this point.
Man, that's so mature. Man, Trey, one, like my brain is going a thousand directions. One, I'm just super impressed with you as a human, man. I think like honestly, like the things that you're saying, like I'm kind of like being convicted of like like being intentional with the world of work that I have, but also as a husband, as a and a father, man, like how the value of it being intentional with character development. You said something that was very just very prominent where like you intentionally stopped giving compliments primarily because you see like you know you see what's happening with their student athletes where they're being oversaturated with positivity, and so for you you see your role as so much more of just than teaching them how to get bigger, faster, stronger, but you're trying to mold them to be good women and men of society. And I think that's like that's phenomenal. I don't know how many of us see the level of intention in our professions, right? Which is really one of the reasons why I just wanted to have these type of conversations. And so I'm super blown away. The one thing I want to ask you, man, I really enjoy asking this question, and I'll preface it with this: is like I see you as somebody like you're making a conscious decision to be a strength coach and to grow as a profession that helps other folks. And so like when I think about like some of the skills and the values um that you're developing or trying to instill into other people, like it's really you're planting seeds for the long term. A lot of the fruit that you're honestly kind of cultivating, you probably won't actually see in the short term, like beyond the physical development of people, but the spiritual is kind of what I'm hearing from you, the character, the values, and things of that nature. So I preface all that to say, like, if you were to write a book, man, what would you write about? Because I hear a lot of this, I hear you as a thought leader, and I hear a lot of these values you're talking about. What would your book be about, man? Who would it be for? What's it called?
That's a great question. Yeah, I'll probably just write about my life, and just talk about everything I learned from whatever the point is that I'm writing the book at up to then. The things I learned, the values I live by, and be vulnerable in the book and just lay it on the line. Like, hey, this is the things I fought with, at Mississippi or whenever. These are the things I had to overcome, I had to learn. Um, and just I don't know what it would be called, honestly. I think it just might be called the journey.
Like that. The journey.
But no, yeah, I think if it was I had to write a book, it would just be about my life and just giving whoever the customers, whoever buy it, just the real me, just be vulnerable in every way I can be. And hopefully out of let's say 5 people read it, hopefully it gets to one person and it'd be like, man, like I understand, like I get it, and you just got to change your mindset and your perspective on things, and be open minded. Um, so yeah, I think that's what it'd be about.
The journey. That sounds like a future New York Times bestseller, man. I want you to write that book because, and here's the thing, like I want to land a plane. The reason why I ask that question to everybody I meet, but the answer is always very different. And like our stories are so powerful, man. I genuinely wanted to like have this podcast just to touch base with you because I've just been watching you from afar. But one of the things that I got from our convo, um, I realized how unique it is to be a coach. Um, like I'm looking at your LinkedIn right now. You've been a coach what for 10 years, roughly, somewhere along those lines?
Yeah, close, about 8 years. So collegiate coach, yeah, about 8 years.
And just think about that, man. Like you literally work with thousands of human beings, thousands of souls. And as a coach, like so now I'm out of athletic coaching and I'm a career coach. There's no scenarios where I meet 200 to 400 humans on a day-to-day basis. Like I just don't do that. I do programs where throughout like certain times of the year, I might have a program that interacts with 200 people, but you literally serve 200 to 400, 500 plus student athletes, and not just them, the coaches and administrators as well. every single day. So I just give that as context of how powerful it is in terms of your sphere of influence that you have. It's truly, you're doing ministry work, man. Like, whether you think so or not, like you're cultivating human beings for the better. So I just want you to like that's what I just was reminded thinking about your story. But I hope that you understand the power of what you're doing, man, as a leader, bro. And I just thank you, man.
Oh, definitely, man. I appreciate it. Now, that took me a long time to realize that too as well. And it also changed my perspective. Like, all right, like, yeah, again, I can't see myself just as a coach. I can't come in there and be this way and then leave and, treat strangers that want to talk to me and be rude and stuff. So, I kind of take it too in the sense of, God put people in your life for a reason. Even if that's you talking to a stranger, right? Well, the saying like be kind. Like I take that to heart. Like you can make a stranger's day, you can make anybody's day. You don't know what people are going through. So, that's one thing I value because, everybody go through hard times. Everybody remember how they felt in hard times. So and one thing you always felt is you want somebody to be there for you, right? So, I always try to keep that in the back of my mind, like, hey, no matter what, whoever you talk to, like always be kind and, try to make their day.
Amen. Amen. That's a word, brother. Well, look, Coach Tre, I know we're at time, man. I can't thank you enough for your time, brother. I'm super proud of you, man. You're doing big things, but also besides like the titles and the work that you're doing, I'm proud of you because you're on mission and you're being intentional on mission, man. Last question is how can people get connected with Coach Tre Thomas, man?
Yeah, I got an Instagram, I got X, I got LinkedIn. If you find me on Instagram, it's Coach Tre Thomas. I think my X is the same thing as well. I'm not really on X, but it's easy to find me. But yeah, I mean, IG is probably the best thing. So Coach Tre Thomas, if you want to follow me, DM me. If you want to ask any questions, feel free. I'll get back to you. I'm not gonna promise I get back to you right away, but I'll make sure I get back to you.
Oh man, you're a busy man. You're a busy man. Hey, coach, hold tight for a second. Everybody else, man, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm super encouraged. I hope you got a lot out of this conversation. Keep in mind, it's better late than never. It's never too late to be the best version of yourselves. Y'all be blessed.
Better late than never, better late than never, forever hard to measure. I might see my future fall away, but you control time, so my future do what you say.